Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are in a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com.
All right, hello and welcome to our July bonus episode of Grilling JR here on Ad Free Shows, and we're excited this month to bring you the Bash at the Beach from '96. JR, how you doing today?
I'm good. Good to talk to you, Paul, as always.
Yeah, it's good to see you, and the 25-year anniversary this month of the NWO and the Hogan heel turn, and JR, we're going to watch that match today from Bash at the Beach.
I have to admit, I've never watched it before, so it's going to be brand new. Well, you know, when it's just hard to go watch more wrestling when you're on the road, you know, every week, and with running talent relations and doing payroll and booking the live events and et cetera, that job just never ended. There's no off seasons we've talked about before in pro wrestling, so I didn't really make the time. I had time, I guess I could have done it, but I just wasn't motivated to watch more wrestling. And of course, I'm aware of the Hogan business, and it was a talk of the world for the pro wrestling world for a good while. So it ought to be a fun show. And like I said, I looked at it a little bit this morning just to get a kind of a feel for who's there and all that stuff. So it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, JR, before we hit play here, I'll set the stage for everybody that's watching along or listening. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall jumped to WCW months before this, and the speculation begins immediately after they talk about a third man, that someone will be joining them in their new faction. Eric and Conrad had a pretty animated discussion where Eric claims it was former WCW wrestlers Vinny Vegas and the Diamond Stud who are coming back for revenge. JR, in your opinion, the way WCW presented it, were they going for a WWF invasion angle more here?
I think they were. You know, they didn't mention Hall and Nash by name for seemed like forever, but they did eventually. But it certainly was, to me, was to try to replicate a hostile takeover and get people talking, and it did. And it generated, that was what got them turned around, in my view, this turn we're going to see, and made them very relevant in those 83 weeks.
Yeah, it felt like as a fan, too, there were some references about kind of coming in from the north and stuff like that. So how could it not been, you know? So.
Well, I think you're right. It couldn't have, it had to be.
Yeah.
I understand there were certain words that weren't used and certain terminologies that were used that would indicate what you're just saying. Up north and all those things. Yeah. So I think that's what it was. I mean, it was to drive ratings, and you know, Hogan had never been, except in the old territory days, Hogan had really never been a full blown heel. He was a heel back in the day, as we say, but he was you know, it was fleeting. So his primary legacy is a baby face, obviously. You find out that big guys like that, you can say, well, they're going to be a monster heel, but even monster heels have to feed a comeback. And Hogan was so big and so impressive looking that he was hard to hate in that respect. So, you know, I just think that it was a surprise. And wrestling fans love surprises when they're done right. This was done right. This was a very good angle that we're going to analyze here in a few moments. So, but it was obvious to everybody why Hall and Nash left WWE and went to work for WCW. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me. Like you said, I don't know, what else could it have been? So they came in for a purpose to stir it up, create their own little group. Some people are going to like cool heels. They were cool heels.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan, Paul, of cool heels. It's like being a funny heel. Why should you dislike somebody enough to want to see them get their ass beat if they're entertaining you in a positive way? They're making you laugh. If they're, you know, making, oh, what'd he say? So it's like swimming upstream a little bit. And unfortunately, the everlasting images of Hall and Nash being cool heels didn't evaporate. There's talents today that believe if they are cast or booked, in other words, as a heel, that they will, they'll have this fan base, and they don't realize that you want the majority of the fans to not like you if you're cast as a heel. You're a villain in a scripted performance. So being being loved and being embraced by your audience as a villain is counterproductive in my view. Now I say that, but on this occasion, all that stuff I just said goes out the window because this worked. But as a steady diet of cool heels, it's not a great trade-off, I don't think.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, how bad are you really going to want to see somebody get their ass kicked if secretly you're enjoying their character and kind of cheering them on?
Or they're making you laugh.
Yeah.
They're doing comedy spots. I've heard all along in my career that, you know, comedy doesn't draw money. It's entertaining. It's a nice addition, no doubt about it, but it's a different diversion. It's a different perspective, all those things. But at the end of the day, you've got to really dislike your heels, because if not, you're doing a big disservice to the baby faces. And this is not an a cappella business. You got to have shared teamwork and shared presentation. So I think that's what we're going to see here in this scenario. The way I get it, it was supposed to be a 6-man tag, right?
Yes, it is. And I have one more question for you before we get into this. As great friend of the show, I couldn't help, I had to use that line. Conrad likes to say, there was a lot of rumor and innuendo at this time over who the third person would be, JR. There's speculation it's Bret Hart. Could it be Sting? What about Mabel? Davey Boy Smith, Jeff Jarrett, basically anyone that seemed to be off of WWF TV recently. Does any of that land on your radar? And were there any contract discussions with people that you were worried about because of the angle?
No, I think that once we got through in my tenure there as head of talent relations, I think the only contractual issue that I can recall, there may have been another isolated case here and there, but nothing significant, was the Jeff Jarrett situation with China. That was an issue that, I have my side of the story. Jeff has his side of the story.
Right.
I thought we had an agreement, and I trusted him. And in that point in time, that was my mistake. I should have got everything written down and on paper, but we had talked all the details. Talent is interested in compensation and term. Of course, when they get enlisted, they're interested in cash and creative.
Right.
But going into the proposition, it's a couple more little details there. So, but once we got past that issue, we put in a better system with our legal department on when contracts started coming due. And I started looking at contracts as a rule about a year before the expiration date. Because that way I could let Vince know we got another year on this guy. If you want to keep him, if you feel good about him being here or her being here, then I can address it as such. We've even been known to take a 3-year contract, get 2 years and change in it, and then tear it up and do another contract with the cooperation, obviously, of the talent. We didn't do it arbitrarily. So it just lets the talent know that they're wanted, that they have value, and it gives them and their families some more security. So we did that more often than not all the time, but frequently. So anyway, that's kind of where we were with that deal. But yeah, we paid attention more. Hall and Nash's contract just simply came to an end. The term ran out, and then they wanted to keep their departure obviously a little bit covert for the surprise element when they went to Atlanta. So it was interesting times, to say the very least. But this angle we're going to talk about, Paul, is the angle that made them the money. It's got most of their top stars in one match, with Sting and Luger, Randy Savage on one team. That's a hell of a team.
Yeah. And
Hall and Nash and their who's going to come help them, third partner, unidentified as of yet. So that was kind of the deal. It had a lot of the key elements that pro wrestling has kind of hung its hat on over the years: mystery, intrigue, surprise, star power. So that's kind of how I looked at this scenario. And I'm looking at this frozen shot on my iPad right now, and it's like, that's a whole lot of talent.
You're absolutely right.
A whole lot of talent. So if you're going to shoot an angle, which they're getting ready to, this is the crew you want to, this is the ones you want to touch, because all it does is it gives you, born in, or what I'm trying to say, but you already got a list of opponents. When Hogan does his dirty deed and aligns himself with Hall and Nash, you've already got opponents set up for him: Sting, Luger, and Savage, in any combination, 6-man tags, regular tags, single matches, whatever it may be. So it was a real well thought out piece of business. I have to, I've never been one to.
I get it. It's a wrestling podcast, but he's saving us money on our mortgage. You really trust this process? The reviews don't lie. 5-star review after 5-star review. We make it fast, we make it easy, and it's no cost or obligation. Give us a shot to earn your business. I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did, especially if you like keeping more of your own money. You don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket, so what are you waiting for? Hurry to SaveWithConrad.com.
Say, well, I didn't. That was those guys are doing that, so I automatically don't like it. Well, that's not objective at all. And the fans that are listening now in this bonus edition know that I don't bullshit in that regard. If it's good, it's good.
That's why we love you, JR. You don't bullshit.
That's what it is. It's what we. If it's good, it's good. And if you're a wrestling fan like I am and have been and always will be, I'm thinking, that's cool.
Yeah.
Good TV is. We say now, what's good for WWE is good for the business. It's always been that way, that the biggest dog in the yard gets the most attention. And when he's getting positive attention, that big dog in the yard, then it affects all the other yards who may have smaller dogs. They got yards, they're trying to make a living. So that's kind of where I see that, buddy.
Well, Jim, let's jump into this one. Let's get it started. You said it. There is just nothing but star power in this ring. So for those of you that are going to follow along and watch with us, go ahead, jump into that Peacock machine. You're looking for WCW Bash at the Beach. It's 1996. They call it Season 3, Episode 1. That's how they're cataloging everything on Peacock. We're going to start at 2 hours, 21 minutes even. And JR and I have it pulled up on our smart devices. We're ready to go. Again, Season 3, Episode 1, Bash at the Beach, 96. 2 hours, 21 minutes. I'm going to count us down, 3, 2, 1. And then, Jim, when I say play, we'll hit play together. Does that sound good?
Yeah, it's good for me.
All right, so here we go. 3, 2, 1, play. And JR, as you said, everyone here in the ring, and we have a little sign of solidarity here. It looks to be with Macho Man, Luger, and Sting, all with the face paint on.
Yeah, kind of showing that unification with Sting. And so, yeah, all three. That's the first time I've seen Luger. Well, I saw Luger, I think, maybe with a Road Warriors scenario or something one time with some paint. But by and large, that's not what you're getting here. So there's a little sign of solidarity. I like that. It's good thinking, good creative thinking as Hall and Luger started out. And the thing about this match, they work at such a frenetic pace. There's very few holds applied. There's a lot of strikes, elbows, forearms, kicks, those type things. So that's kind of how they laid this match out to start that way and get some heat on Luger. And then, of course, you get the babyfaces all got to get their shine. And when the babyfaces realized that one of their partners was in trouble, here they came. So it's a pretty traditional 6-man tag start. Luger's out on the floor, and they're speculating that he's knocked out. So you already got trouble brewing, Paul.
It right off the start of the bat here, he's taken out of the match completely, Jim. So they we started here saying it was a 3-on-3 match, but they used this move to knock Luger out. You're going to see a stretcher come out for Luger. So do you think it's a good move here in terms of drama of the match to do this kind of right off the bat here?
Well, it seemed like it tied together pretty well. It might not have been something I would suggest off the top of my head. I might have got a little bit deeper into the match. But it was certainly a unique way to protect Luger. Luger didn't get caught into here comes the stretcher. Luger didn't get caught in the crossfire of that match. And it's also awkward that your two heels are fighting 3 baby faces. And that's totally adverse to what you're looking for, quite frankly. You don't want the baby face to have this advantage in that regard if you're a booker. So now Luger's being tended to. Add some drama to it, Paul.
It does. So it's already a big main event. All eyes are on it. Now all of a sudden you have a gurney coming down. The crowd's already abuzz. I'm going to ask you a couple rapid fire questions because not only do I have some questions for you, we also have some fan questions as we go through this. But this is a good time while there's kind of a break in the action. So, JR, when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash jumped as WCW, do you think they initially, as they make the move, did you think they could have been they were going to be the match that could potentially ignite the flame for WCW long term here?
Yeah, I mean, they were big stars when they left WWE. They both had distinguished resumes there, championships held and so forth. So they came in with a lot of positive fanfare. They didn't get jobbed out on the way out. I don't know if they did any favors on the way out. They might have, but it didn't matter. That stuff doesn't stick with me as much as some guys, as Luger's now being taken out of the arena on the stretcher. So what we have now is a 2-on-2 match. But yeah, I think that Hall and Nash had the table set for them very well. They were treated good leaving WWE, quite frankly. At least that was my opinion. So when they got to Atlanta working for Eric, they weren't damaged goods. They weren't soiled. They're fresh.
Yeah. Still in their prime, still strong. And they came down at a great time in their career. Let's talk about Hulk a little bit. So you worked with Hulk for a very short time when you arrived in the WWF at WrestleMania 9. What was your interaction with him? Was he the larger-than-life character, that's always been said of him?
Well, he tried to be. I mean, he had earned certain mystique and reputation of being the top star in the business at that time. So, but I didn't have a lot of interaction with him. As far as my announcing style, as you know, I'd rather the less I know about a match and how it's going to be laid out, the better I perform, I think. So at least that's in my mind. I'd rather call it like I would call it spontaneously, like a ball game or something, a shoot fight or something along those lines. I don't need to know all the details. I think it affects the announcing because you can inadvertently psychologically precondition audiences, which you don't need to do, because then that lessens the surprise of their precondition. So all you're doing is screaming, hey, now there's going to be an angle here in a minute. Stay with us. So I didn't hang around Hulk much. You know, he always had his own dressing room, as best I recall. He had always a little entourage around him. And all the guys I knew all the guys, but it just was, I didn't try to fit into their group. I was brand new at that point in time. It's my first big event in the company's, my run with the company. So I didn't need to know a lot. And I knew how to call a match, I felt like. And I've always said, if you can put it on the monitor, I can call it. So that's the confidence you have to have when you're doing extemporaneous ad libs.
Sure.
For up to 3 hours. You got to believe your game is strong enough to get that handled. So that's kind of where we are with that. So, but Hogan spent a lot of time with Vince, and that's just smart for the boys. You know, he knew who buttered the bread, and he knew Vince was a big fan of his.
So we look around at everyone involved in this match. We see referee Randy Anderson. He's the referee here. Any good Randy Anderson stories that you can share with us here on this bonus episode?
When I worked in Mid-South for Cowboy Bill Watts, Randy Anderson was the Junkyard Dog's keeper. So in other words, he drove the car, and Cowboy always got a Lincoln. He bought Dog a Lincoln at one point, bought Ernie Ladd one too. But he made sure that Dog had comfortable riding and that Randy was the driver. So it would be easier on the dog, whose work ethic was at times questionable. So it made it easier on him to get from town to town. And that territory, the Mid-South territory, was a monster. You know, 1,500, 2,000 miles a week was normal. Not just occasionally, it was normal. So it was a grueling territory and nobody flew anywhere. It's all by car. But Pee Wee's legacy will include that when the Dog would smoke weed at night, he'd get the munchies, and he would send Pee Wee to the little machines, you know, the
vending machines.
Yeah. So Pee Wee always carried this huge bag of quarters, like in a bank bag, one of those little canvas bank bags. It was loaded with quarters. So when Dog wanted a Hershey's bar or Snickers or whatever, Pee Wee didn't have to go to the front desk for change. He had several dollars, maybe $100, $200, $300. I don't know, but a huge big bag of quarters. And that was Pee Wee's legacy. So he'd have those quarters in his carry-on or his roller bag, and just weighted it down. He could always, when he took it out, you could hear it jingle.
If only DoorDash or Uber Eats would have been around then.
Yeah, man, they made some money off Dog. But Pee Wee, he fed the vending machines and made sure Dog had his munchie fix. So that's what. And Pee Wee was a good referee. You know, the old time bookers wanted referees that were small and not tall and long or big or whatever. And because it all was about getting the talent over and even perception of how big a guy is. So that was one of Pee Wee's little responsibilities, but he's a good referee.
JR, do you have a go-to candy bar? You said Snickers, Hershey bar. I'm a foodie. I like food. Do you have a go-to candy bar?
I haven't had one in a long, long time. But I like Mounds bars.
Mounds.
Yeah.
All right. A little coconut and.
Yeah, I like the dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate. I like dark chocolate.
I'm a dark chocolate guy. I like the dark chocolate. Those little Hershey, little bite size.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are pretty good. Look, I'm diabetic too.
Yeah.
So I don't partake in extra sugar.
But it's nice to have a treat every now and then.
Oh, hell yeah. And if it is, you got the answer.
That's right. Okay. Well, fans, if you see JR and want to slip him a little sugar, there you go. Good stuff there. That's fun, though. Those are the fun stories we like to hear. Little Randy Anderson with Junkyard Dog. And good stuff there. Well, listen, back to what we got going on here. So we're talking about the third man in the ring, and I know that you said before you're busy, you got a lot going on, you're trying to run a roster, you're calling action, you got stuff going on in the WWE at this time. Was there any kind of talk or chatter backstage about this big reveal in the WWE, or did you guys have any indication of what was about to come? Whispers? Oh, hey, do you hear what they got going on up there, or anything about Hogan?
Only after the fact.
Okay.
Only after the fact. Now maybe some of the boys who maintained friendships with the WCW guys may have had an inkling, but the general rank and file did not. Now, after it occurred, it was, well, Hogan finally turned heel. Then the smart ass answer would be, he's always been heel to me, type deal. He sometimes wasn't very popular. And that a lot of stems, a lot of jealousy, and the fact that whoever's closest to Vince at that particular time was going to get some heat on him. Now, they wouldn't anybody say anything, maybe covertly, the dirt, there's a lot to unpack here. It's Conrad with a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unpack in that deal too. But if you Hogan, the jealousy issues were tough for Hogan.
Yeah.
He got an unfair hand more often than not, simply because he was very, very successful. If you go back in his heyday in WWE, when they were running 3 house shows a night, the first thing when a talent got their booking sheet was to look and see where Hogan was, and then hope that they're on that same card, because they knew it was going to draw more money than the other cards. So, and that's the guy that people got jealous over. So this is look at Pee Wee. Pee Wee's really good. And Hall and Nash do good working the referee. They're not middling the referee. Their bodies, are separating the cheating, and the cheating somewhat disguised as Sting's in this abdominal stretch created by Wilbur Snyder, who was a wrestling partner of Dick the Bruiser back in Indianapolis in their territory. So Sting rakes the eyes, heals his way out of it.
Yeah. Tries
to work to that tag in the corner, but he shut down right before he was able to make the tag with Savage. Good drama.
Yes.
Good drama. And it's all about, quite frankly, it's all about selling right now. As Hall goes for the cover, but Sting's doing a hell of a job of selling. Savage is doing a hell of a job of keeping the crowd invested, and with his animated actions. So right now you got Hall with Sting, they're legal, Savage cheerleading, and Nash waiting to get another tag to come in and try to maintain the advantage. The psychology of a tag match, Paul, is you cut the old deal about cutting the ring off in half. What's all that mean? Well, what it means is you're going to wrestle most of the match in your side of the ring, on your end of the field, whatever you want to cliche you want to use, and you want to turn it into a handicap match. So if you got a scenario where, like in this situation, Sting has been isolated, Savage is over there trying to help him. Pee Wee's on the outside trying to control Savage, which has never been an easy task. And Savage has got to get back to his corner, because if Sting does break free, there'll be nobody there to tag. So you got to do that as a babyface. So right now Sting's isolated. So essentially, Paul, what this has become, as long as Savage is out of the picture, not tagged in, is a handicap match. It's Hall and Nash versus Sting. And that's the art of tag team wrestling. Hence the talk about that diagonal line from corner to corner, all that good stuff. That's all that means. You want it as a great tag team. You want to turn this son of a bitch into a handicap match. Anybody that are as historians watch the old Assassins, Joe Hamilton and Tom Ernesto, or watch Gene and Ole Anderson, and even Tully and Arn, Midnight Express. All those guys are expert at isolating one opponent from the pack, and then doing their deeds on that opponent. And quite frankly, it's not always illegal. It's just being very unrelenting, shall we say. And so it gets the baby. So you got jeopardy on the baby face, key element. You got a baby face that's not dying, but he's selling like crazy because he's in immense jeopardy. And you got these two heels that are smart, and they're keeping Sting, in this case, isolated.
Yeah, and 3 of the 4 guys here, and by the way, just for those at home trying to keep up with us, we're at 2:35, 38, 39, 40, time code check there. 3 of the 4 have worked with Pat Patterson extensively in WWF. Yep. I think this is, you see some of that influence when you're talking about this hot tag, babyface, heel work going on here.
Now, there's the tag. Pee Wee sold the tag like he was a drunk man, because that's what the audience had been waiting on. So he didn't miss it. And the audience gets a nice pop. And the Savage is in, legal. That's exactly what the heels did not want to occur.
Right.
But anybody that Patterson interacted with is going to learn a lot from him, and they're going to carry it with them. I guarantee if we got Hall or Nash on the phone right now, they would concur with what we're assuming. That's Patterson's influence.
Yes.
After you work with him, was profound in your pro wrestling career. Low blow, traditional heel move behind the referee's back. See, the great thing about this is the utilization of Pee Wee Anderson, the referee. And there comes the Hulkster.
Here he comes, making his way down the ring, the crowd's to their feet. And this is the start of the historic moment that changed the business, JR. It really did.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. It was a positive. It was fresh. It was
no
new.
music. No music, by the way, which is a lost art nowadays. Everybody needs music, even for the surprises.
Yeah, that's a little overthought, but you're right.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Well, it's about the entertainment.
I know.
That's all. Like, kiss my ass. Entertainment. I'm surprised. If I'm surprised and I'm excited, I'm entertained.
Yeah, I want to be. I want to act like it was totally unplanned. They weren't ready to press any music buttons.
And the Hogan just dropping that big
Drops
leg on
the leg. We're gonna play a
Savage.
little bit of this here because the announcers are going nuts. Here we go.
Shot ever given to professional wrestling. That man did right there, Hulk Hogan.
Let's get everybody out of the dressing room right now and kick his rear end.
Unbelievable, brother. You just sold your soul to the devil. These years? Huh? What have I been saying all these years?
Oh my God.
A career of a lifetime. Right down the drain, kid. I hope you love it. Can you just sold your soul to the devil. See those little Hulksters with the tears rolling down their face right now?
We are not going to even acknowledge that 3 count.
Now what happens to us? What happens now to WCW?
There was no 3 count. I never thought I would say that he's yellow, but he may be wearing red, but he's wearing red and yellow.
babyface announcing tonight.
I'll tell you what.
JR, what do you I mean, these guys, by the way, on commentary tell the story too. I mean, it's,
yeah, they did a good job. They're all baby faces. There should have been one dissenting point of view to some degree, but that was not the case for a little balance. But in any event, now they're playing the crowd like the virtuosos that they are, you know. And then here comes the stuff.
Here comes the garbage.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Hulk Hogan turning heel at this point? I mean, before it happened.
No, I didn't. That's what made it so good, I think. That's why the decision to do it, I thought, worked really, really well, because we didn't see it coming. And the guys in the ring, including, we can't leave out the baby faces in this scenario. They set the table for this to happen and make it more effective. So everybody deserves an attaboy, quite frankly. Everybody involved and whoever the agent was or whoever laid it out.
And this is a big deal too, because Hogan's been such a merchandise machine, you know, for the company, for himself, for everyone.
That motivates them to be cool heels, Paul.
Yeah.
They sell their merch. They're cool merch. People buy our stuff. There's the beloved Gene Okerlund in the ring.
We're going to go to some of this if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right, here we go.
What in the world are you thinking?
Me, Gene, the first thing you need to do is to tell these people to shut up if you want to hear what I got to say.
I have been with you for so many years. For you to join up with the likes of these two men absolutely makes me sick to my stomach. And I think that these people here and a lot of other people around the world have had just about enough of this man, and you want to put yourself in this group? You've got to be kidding me.
Well, the first thing you got to realize, brother, is this right here is the future of wrestling. You can call this the new world order of wrestling, brother.
Here come the T-shirts.
Right here.
What's that?
And here come the T-shirts.
And here come the and who better? Nobody better than Mean Gene Okerlund, the guy with him from 83, 84 on.
Yeah.
To come in with that mic and call him out.
Very well done, and Gene stood his ground and added a little balance. Gene was always the voice of the fan.
Yes.
And so all he's saying here is what the fans, I'm sure most of them are thinking. Why? Why now? Why join these two cats? So Hogan knew how to be a heel. He knew how to be a heel. He was very smart. I think all those years in the territories, all those years working with the great talents that he worked with in AWA, the Pattersons, the Stevens, and all those guys, and then going to work for WWE in the mid '80s, early '80s, was his second run was a great educational experience. So, and he grew up in a wrestling territory that knew what heels were about. He grew up watching wrestling, where Eddie Graham, the booker and the owner of the Florida Championship Wrestling, knew how to build heels. And so Hogan learned his lessons well. So he's putting on a master class right here of promo. And, it's strange too. You can tell he's lost a lot of weight.
Yes.
His face is leaner. So
it was so different for me as a fan, as a kid growing up, seeing that, well, I don't want to say bloated, but he was just so much thicker as a kid, WrestleMania 3, 4, 5, and then to see the WCW version, it was noticeable, the difference.
Yes, he had probably reorganized his supplement, shall we say.
There you go. I love that. Reorganize the supplements. Well, a few questions here, because we had some fan questions come in for specifically this bonus episode. Did you ever talk or have a conversation post this pay-per-view with Vince about this whole thing? Hey, what'd you think about Hogan? Bad guy now, huh? Just something.
Well, I knew Hogan didn't watch it. Excuse me. Vince didn't watch it either.
Okay.
He doesn't even watch his own product very often. I'm seriously.
Yeah, I know.
Look at what he does for a living.
Yeah.
He manages everything. He doesn't have time to take an hour out.
He's too busy microman. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of irons in the fire. But yeah, we talked about it afterwards, and he wasn't just negative for the sake of being negative. He thought it's going to draw some money for him. And Hogan being a heel was probably past due. It was new. It was a surprise. So there really wasn't anything to not like, unless you're just going to base it on jealousy. And why didn't we do that?
Right. All right, well, there's that. So let's get into some fan questions, some listener questions. Michael McClanahan, good buddy, great member, ad-free shows. He said, at what point in time did JR personally start to believe there may be some trouble on the horizon for the WWF as it relates to being outperformed by the WCW and the NWO angle?
That thought never crossed my mind, because that was not the way you manage a team and coach a team. We're always going to be in the game. And I had great confidence in our ever evolving and developing roster. I knew what we had signed, who we had signed, and where they were training and how they were progressing. When I got one class there that's got Brock Lesnar and John Cena and Dave Bautista and Shelton Benjamin and Randy Orton in it, I know that our future is bright, because we signed some studs. Physical, athletic studs that were really, really good at what they did. So I didn't have any fear. I had some trepidation regarding if our talents read the dirt sheets and all that stuff continually, then they might psych themselves out. But as far as us were concerned, I had no issues with it whatsoever. Competition is good.
Right.
That's what I tried to do when I took that job, is create competition in the locker room. But now we got competition in the locker room, and we've got the kind of atmosphere you want.
All right, next question, JR, from Pender J. He said, if Hogan had hypothetically, again, this is hypothetical, turned heel in the WWF in 1993, how do you think that would have changed the dynamic of the 1996 turn, or would it have even happened?
Well,
would it have had any steam?
Yeah, it would have impacted it, because Hogan's major heel turn that we just talked about was a first.
That's right.
National TV, full-blown heel. And so I think it would have, if he had turned heel in 93, speaking of Hulk, pronoun boy, he killed him. Who is he? Who's him? one of my pet peeves this morning.
All good.
But I think that I don't think that it might not have happened. But you know, Vince would have been really convinced. He was such a Hoganite. You know, he'll create the character.
Yeah, it's his baby.
So he believed that Hogan was the supreme, ultimate babyface, and he would have had a strong argument, Paul, to change horses, to change jerseys for the Hulkster. So it worked out for WCW the best. You know, quite frankly, I think, you know, the fact that we didn't turn Hogan heel in '93, and quite honestly, he would have probably been a damn good heel in '93. You know, there's a lot of guys that would, you know, he could have matches with a lot of guys, but that's just not what Vince felt. And it had to be a special set of circumstances for this all to happen. And what we just saw, they set the WCW and Eric, so forth, set the table very well in the standpoint that you got all your primo baby faces in the ring. And then Hogan comes and does this. And you notice in the Hogan got all the physicality in when he came in the ring. Hall and Nash became kind of backed away a little bit. They were in the foreground. They were encouraging him.
Yes.
But it was all Hogan. And of course, Hogan went after his biggest rival, Randy Savage. So they put marriages back together. They created new matches, new opponents. So that in that respect, it was really, really good. But I think a turn in '93 in WWE for Hogan would have adversely affected what we just saw.
Yeah, you go to Kevin and Nash and Scott Hall doing the Hogan poses behind him. I mean, now Hogan's obviously the leader. He's the man. So
they've acquiesced that Hogan's going to be the guy.
That's right. All right, now based on this line of thought, a good friend of the show, Paul Bromwell, writes in a question here. So based on Hogan, and like you said, if they turn him in '93, that could have set up a series of opponents, maybe been a nice refresh for him. Seeing what they've done now with Roman Reigns, and really it's taken his career in a whole new amazing direction, if you ask me, making him heel. Do you think they kind of missed an opportunity with John Cena along the way to make him a heel?
Probably, but Vince had the same strong babyface feelings for John Cena that he did for Hulk Hogan.
Yeah,
the superhero. You know, the epitome of a babyface, what a babyface is supposed to be, how he's supposed to represent. And Cena did that well beyond just the lens of the camera. You know, he's granted more Make-A-Wish requests than anybody ever in the history. And a lot of stars, a lot of ball players do Make-A-Wishes. And of course, for those of you that may not know what a Make-A-Wish kid is, it's a kid that's been diagnosed with terminal illness. And so you try to make their life as comfortable and as happy and provide these wishes that when they want to meet John Cena, more often than not, they got to meet John Cena, you know, if it worked out that way. So he loved Cena's game plan and how he represented the company and all that. So, but certainly if you got a personal issue where, let's say it was Cena and Rock, and it was just personal between the two of them. I'm the man, no, I'm the man, no, you know, blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden, it's a little different presentation than Cena turning full-blown heel and being an adversary of every babyface that he encounters. He can only have negative reactions and physicality and so forth with the person that he has this issue with. So it's a different turn. This is kind of like a wrestling 101 here. I'm teaching a class this morning, it seems like, which is good. I love this.
We're here for it, and we love it.
I love it. So, but it's a different presentation than a normal heel turn or babyface turn to a heel. Roman Reigns he found his personality, and he discovered his voice, so to speak. And I also think that Paul Heyman, my old broadcast partner, has been instrumental in the evolution of the Roman Reigns TV persona. So you just got to find your voice. You got to find what's going to fit for you. And as we talked about here in this match we just saw, it was the right place at the right time with the right pieces in place, and just really extremely well executed.
It was also a character refresh Hogan needed. It needed not only from babyface to heel, but a refresh from the red and yellow vitamins prayers, and you know, Cena with you know, you can't see me and all that good stuff. Anyway, a lot of guys in my demographic, I say all that to say, would have loved a Cena heel turn, because man, we are definitely not a biggest fans for Cena. The women, the kids, they loved him, but
he got overexposed. Paul, he got overexposed, and he was kind of force fed.
Yes,
not John's fault. John's fault running the plays that he's called.
I understand that. Yeah.
So, you know, I just think that I'm with you.
Yeah.
With a top baby face, that a personal issue that is plausible and believable is created for the two to interact, he would have had a nice heel run. No doubt about that. But I think part of his issue was that people didn't like John. He didn't heel. He didn't run. He didn't cower. He didn't lie and cheat and steal. He just was overexposed, I thought. And that's the thing. And it's bad because I recruited a guy. You know, he was driving limos and living in his car and working for a moving company. And when I saw him the first time at Rick Bassman's operation out there in Southern California, and so I believed in him from day one. I even told Vince when I got back, I took a red eye back from L.A. to New York, went straight to the office, and I got there about 10. And Vince was just getting in, and I said, man, I think I signed our WrestleMania main event in 5 years.
Wow.
I felt that good about it. And, of course, you know, he got to bring everybody back down to reality. I think he should go home and take a shower, so I think shave, whatever.
Go take a cold shower, JR.
Yeah, go wash that airplane off, maybe come back to work, get something done. But he had never seen John. He didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He had no clue. He hadn't seen video on it. There's all, you know, Bruce had. Bruce had made some trips out there too to look at Bassman's guys. And he had more than one guy, but Cena was the one that popped me.
There you go.
When I sit down and talk to him, it's a different conversation, you know, when you're me talking to Cena about coming to work, or his career goals, or what's in your head, or that's a whole different conversation than you have with most of the time. It's very unique.
Yeah, smart.
And I'm on a fact-finding mission. Were you a fan as a kid? Oh yeah. Well, who's your favorite wrestler? Okay, and who's their biggest adversary? So you kind of throw a little quiz at everybody to see if they're bullshitting you or not.
Sure.
They know I want to hear, oh, yeah, I've been a fan all my life. This is all I want to do. And that's a little scary in itself. I'm not big on guys that say, this is all I've ever wanted to do, and this is everything to me. I don't know if I want to be everything in your life. I don't know if the wrestling business should be everything in your life. How about family? How about your health? You know, how about staying out of trouble, so forth and so on. So it's an interesting thing. But I found out that John Cena was a Supreme Wrestling fan. And he answered all my questions, and he would outline. He would go back and do like what we're doing now. Only we just do it mentally. Little watch-alongs. He knew what moved him. He knew what made him turn his head, made him raise his eyebrows, what made him remember. So I knew that we had a guy there that didn't have any issues being in the wrestling business, because I have had guys that I felt like I signed that had such great upside. If we get them turned in the right direction, that they would, you know, be successful. But it sure is good when you get somebody that's a lifer, so to speak, and just loves being, want to live their dream. This has been their dream. But if they become one-dimensional, see, I find the guys that have that attitude and things maybe don't go as well as they want them to, they get desperate. They start taking shortcuts. They have a different mental attitude. They're running on paranoia and insecurities, and those are not positive traits. So it's the whole science of this thing, and that's how I recruited guys. You find guys that, you know, everybody had their own motivation. You know, Mick Foley had 2 or 3 tryouts and got turned down on all of them, but he is diligent, and he kept forcing his hand to get back in the game. So. Or to get in the game at WWE, and that's why I brought him to hire him, one of my first hires. And, you know, the story is Vince wasn't crazy about it. Basically told me, I'm going to let you hire him because I want you to know what it feels like to have your heart broken by a talent you really believe in, because he doesn't have it. And so, but I needed an opponent for The Undertaker, and Mick 6'4", 300 pounds, and could feed a comeback, take bumps. And that's what Taker needed. We needed a player to match up with Taker. We had nobody for him. We start running out of heels. So that was my sales job. And Vince bought it because he thought, I think, and I did too, to a lesser degree, that if nothing else, we get Foley over and he gets one good run with Taker. And that's good for Taker. So all this hiring Mick Foley was all about The Undertaker. And ironically enough, their first matches on the big screen were against each other. So all that kind of came true. But you want to hire guys that have the right attitude, are willing to put in the work. They know it's not an overnight process. Now, the only guy that I had an issue with that with was Lesnar, because Lesnar had no background in pro wrestling. He wasn't a fan. He didn't watch it on TV. He didn't know how cyclical it can be, so forth and so on. So, and how that manifests itself, he wanted to come to get called up much earlier than we called him up. So I compromised with him and brought him to TVs. That we could meet the guys, hang around the guys, see how that locker room interacted, et cetera, et cetera. And then we'd send him back to Louisville on Wednesday. And he was the foreman of the ring crew. He drove the ring truck, helped put the ring up. And he was the highest paid guy he's probably the highest paid ring guy in history. But he needed to learn what everything was about. And he wasn't afraid of hard work and manual labor. He grew up on a farm, for God's sakes. He grew up on a dairy farm. For those that understand how that works, those cows can't go 2 or 3 days without being milked. They have to be milked every morning and every night, 7 days a week, all year. There's no off time. So I kind of thought, well, that might work out for this business. It never ends.
Yeah.
And he wasn't afraid of work.
Lends itself to a big time work ethic.
He just wanted to make more money. And the downside guarantee that we're paying him, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that he was making about $250. That was the highest contract I had for a rookie. But it didn't take a genius to figure out how special he was.
Yeah. My
God, look at him. You know, you should see the look on Vince's face when he laid eyes on him the first time. That was at an event in Minneapolis.
Is that when you had to tell Vince it's time for you to go take a shower?
Might as well. I know one thing. We're walking out to the ring, and I said, "There's this kid at Briscoe and I've been recruiting." Where? Over there. And he laid eyes on Brock and made a U-turn and went right to him. Introduced himself and all that stuff. Because I didn't know, it's a new process. You want to meet the new guys. You want to, how do you want to handle this? Is this the right place, time, so forth? And but he over and met Brock, and Sherry and I introduced them, and off they went. As far as a relationship starting. So I was glad that happened that night. But every recruiting story has a different. I don't know how we got quite this deep.
I don't care. This has been great. I love the insight from someone who has recruited some of the best talent of all time in wrestling, and hearing you share that it's not always about the pro wrestling that has made it click with you as far as identifying the next superstars in our business. I love it. I love this.
Well, it's you manage everybody in a different way. You manage everybody to in the manner that you can get the most out of them in a productive sense. And that's just management. That's if you're a sales manager or if you're a teacher, you want to get the most out of your students, whatever it may be, maximizing their minutes, if you will.
Yes.
So I was always I just looked at this as a science, so to speak. It hadn't been done that way before, because in the past, and when I got into business in the mid-'70s, the talents were, every now and then you'd have a new guy an amateur, like Dr. Death and Cowboy Bill, like Vern Gagne and his guys, you know, all those guys he trained. Every now and then you run across a new person that makes it. Most don't. Most of them can't get through the training sessions. They realize they think it's all fake, but fatigue's not fake. Soreness isn't fake. The outcomes, okay, you got me there, Your Honor. But other than that, they do their own stunts. They don't have a stand-in to do their travel. They're sitting in those cars all those miles. And like I said earlier, talking about Dog and his vending machine change, that's about 1,500, 2,000 miles a week. So in all these territories, they travel. You got to remember, there are wrestlers that had long, productive careers, Paul, that never got on an airplane, all by car. And that's why the wrestlers drove those damn big-ass cars. Number one, it was comfortable. And number two, it's safer. But number three, it made them look successful.
Yeah. Pulling
up to an arena in a Cadillac, oh, that guy must be a star. Look at that. Oh, seriously.
Yeah.
And that's like baby faces bringing their wives to the shows. People don't know that their wives are here. That was a no-no. It's old school no-no. You can't do that, because they wanted the women that were there to not lose interest in the wrestler. They had their chance. And I know how ridiculous that sounds now, how ludicrous it is, because now there's no secrets. Everybody knows who's married to whomever, and there's pictures all over social media, and people put pictures of their dogs, their wives, their kids. There's nothing held back. So it's crazy stuff, I can tell you that. But nonetheless, it was recruiting. Every recruiting story is different. You know, I had a hard sell to get Randy Orton hired because of his negative exit from the Marines, and Vince being a strong patriot, didn't like the fact that how that worked out for Randy in the military. And I said, didn't you get a second chance? Yeah. Well, what's the difference with this kid? He's the third generation. If he hits, look what we have. If he doesn't hit, I can get rid of him with 90 days notice. What do we have to lose?
It's safe to say he hit.
Yeah. Well, he's going to end up his career as one of the greatest
Hall of Fame
talents. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hall of Fame, no doubt. Yeah. He's also going to be regarded by his peers as one of the greatest in-ring workers that they ever worked with, or of his generation. So, it worked out well.
Well, JR, if it was a science recruiting, you would be a professor, if not the dean. You have definitely figured out a winning formula. You talk about the recruiting class. I know you've mentioned it before, but Orton and Lesnar and Cena. And on that class alone, you really just got it going on, man. So unbelievable. Thank you so much for sharing some of that insight today.
It was fun. It was fun. Like I said, Paul, every story is unique.
It is.
The individual.
You're right.
And, Jericho's recruiting was different.
Even how you had to sell him to Vince from WCW. You shared that story before.
Oh, yeah. The same thing with Guerrero, Eddie Guerrero, and Benoit, and Malenko, and Saturn. Not a one of them was 6 feet tall. I just didn't ever mention it.
Yeah.
Then we got them all together. And Vince, God, they're awful small. I said, Vince, they wrestle big. And I said, and at that time, when the territory ceased operating, it changed the way everybody had to do business. So, the one thing about AEW right now is that we have those matches on Dark on YouTube. I think they're on Mondays. And that's sensitive to discover, and assess the talent level of these new kids. So, and how are they doing, and how are they reacting? Are they learning from the last TV? Because most of them have never done a TV match. They just worked indies.
Sure.
And so they get all their spots in, which starts me on another tirade, but I don't want to go crazy here this morning. But that's only
to our AFS members. So if you go crazy, it is what it is.
Yeah. But seriously, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't you don't know until you get them going, and there's got to be a training mechanism. So I think AEW does a really good job of finding these kids. And, you know, I know they're always looking for a new dark talent. Dark, not meaning you don't see it, but it's dark. The show's called Dark.
Right.
So I think that's a really a cool deal. And that's how you discover people. You know, we had, you know, we're working hard to develop our own stars that are quote unquote, homegrown. You know, that would MJF, Jungle Boy.
Sammy.
Absolutely. Sammy.
Darby.
Yep.
Oh, so many good ones.
So they're all evolving. They're all I think basically they're all in their 20s, and they're getting a great education. They're getting a chance to headline
Ricky
TV
Starks.
shows. What's that?
Ricky Starks.
Oh yeah. There you go. So that's what we're looking at. And even though people say, well, you've hired all these ex-WWE guys, here's the thing. You can't get better working with someone whose skills are at your equal or less. So if I can say the investment in MJF is significant and the expectations for him to be a huge star are there, and that's true, then how better can he become by affiliating, working with, interacting with Chris Jericho?
Right.
God almighty.
Getting the rub, getting the experience, getting the how to work, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So it's
and it's like we talked before, it's just like the free agency business in sports. Do we want someone to go to the Steelers, the Browns, the Bengals, the Cowboys? That's how it works. We cheer for them when they come to our team. And yet in wrestling, oh, you're taking the WWE left it. No, these are guys in their prime. We're cheering for these free agents to be successful.
What I've seen very clearly of guys that come here that Tony Khan hires is the veterans, you know, the Black and who's new.
Aleister Black, yep. And then
he's going to, a couple of weeks, I'm not sure when this drops, but he's match with Cody coming up in a couple of weeks should be really stellar.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
That's big for both of those guys.
Oh, so good.
And, but the thing about it is that they've never been able to hear their own voice. They're memorizing promos that some person has created for them, allegedly in the voice of the wrestler. And when that writer can't even identify with, doesn't have enough product knowledge or can't identify with how that really should sound.
Right.
So I'm a big believer that we're following the right path there.
I'm with you. Because
no territories, you have to reevaluate your plan. It's like if there was no college football, what would the NFL do?
That's right.
And that's kind of where we are. There's no territories, so there's no college football. There's indies. And you find kids that, you know, have not developed too many bad habits. They got a decent body. They look like an athlete. They approach their work seriously and professionally. There's a lot of boxes to check. And so that's kind of where we are with that. It's an ever-changing world, and what you're counting on is those young guys, like the little small group that you mentioned, our homegrown guys.
Orange Cassidy, forgot him. He's another good one. So many.
Yeah. Well, and that's the deal. They got to continue to get better.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you got to be able to communicate with them is that you're not as good as you can be. You can be a lot better. And that's not knocking you. It's just saying that, hey, look, you got room to grow. And I look at that for all of us. I haven't done my best show ever.
Yeah.
And I know that if I got to keep my game up, and I got to improve my game and all those things. And it's challenging when you're 69. You know, sure. I'm not some young kid. Now, the great thing about it is I'm a storyteller and I still have passion. But am I going to misspeak occasionally or something like that? Yeah, of course I am. And do I think less of myself? Does it motivate me to want to quit? Hell no. Are you kidding? You got to be kidding. How many times has your grandma called you by the wrong name?
That's right.
Mine did all the time.
She called me 6 of them before she got it right.
Yeah, that's it. It's just human nature, man.
That's right.
And I got to believe that a lot of my critics are young, real young.
Oh yeah. They have no idea. Listen, I still want you calling these classic moments. And from what I'm hearing, or what the news and the rumor mill, there's going to be some big classic moments more to come in the next couple months, man. I can't wait for you to make those calls.
Yeah, we hope so. Things are bright in our world, AEW, and that's because of the leadership we have. And
love it.
Tony's like the ever what's that bunny? The
ever ready bunny, or
yeah, that's
Energizer.
Bunny.
Yeah,
his batteries seemingly don't run down,
and thankfully the money doesn't either. So hey, let's keep it going, baby.
Well, and you know, these houses coming up soon.
And TV contracts are going to have 2 primetime shows, Rampage and Dynamite, right? So that's great.
Right. Yeah, that's
Got to
right.
fill out those rosters for 2 primetime shows every week.
And because Tony refuses to lean on the side of we got an A show and a B show. Now, of course, as an egomaniac as I am, the A show is always going to be the show I'm on.
Love it, JR.
So, I'm figuring on staying on Dynamite as best I know. But I know that they're taking a lot of pains and a lot of planning and are very, very serious about how they want to position Rampage.
Sure.
So it should be fun. And it's on a challenging night. You know, Friday night television is a wasteland. It always has been.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see how it works out. If I can help them anyway, I will, obviously. But we have a lot of good potential broadcasters, and I don't know who that team's going to be yet for sure. But I'm very excited about the launch, August 13th. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to be in Pittsburgh. That's Pittsburgh, August 13th.
That's Pittsburgh, baby. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Few hours west of me, so it's going to be an exciting. I think Dynamite's Wednesday night in Pittsburgh, and then Friday's Rampage are staying there, and they're not going. And I'm telling you what, Britt Baker, she's going to melt that house down when she shows up there, being the hometown girl. So
she's the female Bruno.
It's going to be
hometown
amazing.
hero.
All right, hey, do you have time for 3 more quick fan questions, and then we can wrap it up? This has been a good time today. All right, let's do it real quick. We'll get back to this whole Hogan turn here. Charlie Thrower, good friend of the show, good buddy of mine. He says, Jim Ross, Hulk's turn is arguably the #1 heel turn. Mr. Ross, what would be #2 in your opinion?
Well, that's a good one for a cold question.
That is a cold question, sorry. Yeah, #2 all-time, a heel turn in wrestling. Wow, 80s, 90s, 2000s. Shocking heel turn.
Yeah. Well, you know, you look at
what about the old Austin heel turn at WrestleMania? I mean, that was controversial.
It was controversial. I don't know how productive it was.
Yeah.
I've made that clear. You know, and the reason we did it is because Vince said we owe it to Steve to give it a try. That's what he wants to do.
Maybe that's what gave him cold feet about doing anything with Cena.
Maybe. I don't know. Could be. It may have influenced the decision.
Yeah.
It's hard to say what
#2.
You know, Nikita Koloff's turn from a Russian bad guy to a pro-American babyface
with a crew cut.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, because he was such a heat magnet as the bald Russian.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Whatever you said. From Robbinsdale High School in Minnesota.
That's right.
But there's been so many significant. I mean, back in the territory days, that was kind of a lost art. You had one major turn a year, maybe. So it's just hard to say because it's such a ongoing fabric of our business.
Yeah.
That it's hard to say one or two. Nikita stands out to me as a pretty significant one.
Yeah, when he came out and followed Dusty to the steel cage ring in Greensboro, and the Four Horsemen were attacking, and they became the Superpowers.
Right.
Yes, that was a huge turn, and the crowd almost fell. That was a big one. You're right. That moment.
I think Butch Reed turning heel on Dog was big in Mid-South. And of course, when Dog bolted, Butch should have been the heir apparent to Dog's spot as far as the in that role. I don't want to sound negative or bad. I don't mean it to be, but as an African-American babyface, Butch Reed was the answer to Dog's departure. But we went another route because Cowboy was hell-bent to develop another black star on the Dog's level. And there just weren't any people they didn't want to try to replicate the Dog with a guy that didn't have the physical stature that JYD had when he was in shape.
And was that a heel to a face turn, JR?
That was a face to heel turn.
Face to heel. Okay, yeah, because Nikita would have been the opposite. And Charlie's asking.
Nikita was a heel to babyface.
Yeah. So he's asking what was a good
the elements about all those things and what we saw today is surprise.
The surprise.
And the fact that the fans have already developed some degree of emotional investment into the characters. So I'm thinking, God, I wish I could think of some more great. One of my sentimental favorites for years and years in the Leroy McGurk's and Cowboys territory, where I started in '74, Skandar Akbar, the general, was Danny Hodge, my boyhood hero, tag team partner. They won the regional belts and all. They did all the things that you would expect a team to do, Hodge and Akbar. And then all of a sudden they rode together. They were my first riding duo. When I first got in the business, I was in the car with Hodge and Akbar, and they loved it because I did all the driving.
Yeah.
And they were the veterans, and all I needed to do was shut my mouth and listen and go to school. More often than not, Hodge would go to sleep, and Akbar and I would talk football or wrestling or psychology or whatever it was. So that was a significant one there because that was a real adjustment. They had to break up. They were doing all their, they were traveling together. They shared hotel rooms. They get a hotel room with 2 beds, and I would wrap myself into the very sanitary bedspread.
Oh man.
And sleep on the floor.
Oh no, thank you.
But I didn't have, I was making $25 to $40 a day, all in, and it's hard to believe that you could even get by on that and actually have money to send home. There wasn't much money sent home, so to speak. That's why I knew that being a referee was fun. You got to perform, you got to be in the ring, but it was not going to be my long-term solution. And I did a good job. I put my heart into it, and I got taught a lot about the psychology of the business by being in the ring. When you're refereeing matches with guys like Dory Jr. and Harley, for example, you can't help but learn. You learn from the pregame, and you learn from the in-ring. And I hear guys now, I see where talents are. They go over their matches endlessly to memorize what they're going to do next, which is exactly the wrong thing to do. There's no spontaneity. There's no audibles called. What's working, you might not have figured something was going to work, and it did, and all of a sudden, because you didn't memorize it as a part of your repertoire that night, you just move on from it. So you're leaving behind something that was working, which makes no sense. But I think that helped me a lot there. But Akbar turning on Hodge, and I remember Akbar had some friends. He and Hodge had mutual friends in Shreveport because we were there a lot doing TV every other week doing taping and every week doing interviews. They called Akbar and said, "Well, we know all this is showbiz. Don't worry. I just like to see you." So they lured Akbar to a little bar that he and Hodge used to go to, and Akbar thinking it's going to be just, okay, they get it. Here, we'll be all right. And he walks into the bar, and it's very, very dark. And he started getting beat with cue sticks. Multiple man assault with him with the pool sticks, because that's how serious they took the angle.
Yeah,
they bought it. They couldn't believe that Akbar turned on Danny, who had been so loyal and so positive and such an integral part of Akbar's career. So that was a pretty significant turn in our little territory. But I give that as an example. And if you're a fan of San Francisco, or you're a fan of Portland, Kansas City. Every territory had those same moments, only with different people.
The only other one I thought of, JR, while you were talking was that was a big one I saw was the Andre heel turn to set up WrestleMania 3. So him kind of the clash with Hogan in the pit, the ripping of the cross. That seemed to be another one that a lot of
that was very good. Yeah, that's why I say it's hard to.
Yeah, there's so many out there.
A lot of good ones.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Chris Carnage comes in. He said, we've often heard Eric had Hogan and Sting in mind for the third man. Had you been in Eric's shoes, who would have you chosen to be the third man? If it was still Hawk, what would you have done differently, if anything?
Well, I thought that angle we saw today was pulled off perfectly. I thought those guys all did a good job. Everybody involved, we mentioned the referee, everybody did their role. So I don't know so therefore, I don't know, other than just my ego talking, I would do anything differently.
Yeah.
It seemed like they dotted all their I's, crossed all their T's, and they executed. But I think he definitely, Eric went with the right guy. Hogan was long overdue. You know, it's a brand new character for him, as you pointed out. It's a new start. So it seemed like that worked, and they're still, I don't want to say protecting Sting, but it's funny that everybody there knew that Sting was the next guy, but they just never got around to getting it done. Really. And honestly, oh yeah, well, don't you remember he won the belt in the Great American Bash? Yeah, I remember it. But I didn't get it all done.
Yeah.
There was no long-term commitment. He didn't have a run with the title, and that's what he needed. So, but Hogan was definitely the choice. I thought, you know, like I said, the little things I saw in the match and how they worked the match, how they used the referee in a good way, where they could cheat and not be caught. You know, you can't call what you don't see. See what you call what you see. As simple as that. Harley raced him that one time. You see me cheating, break. And I'm not. He said, if I won't be upset at you, I won't be upset at myself for letting you catch me. He said, but let me know. I'll let you know this, kid. You ain't going to catch me if I don't want you to. That's how good a cheater. They turn their back.
Yeah.
So they want to throw a thumb to the throat or an illegal fist. That's why when fists were illegal, you could do things like that, and they all meant something. Now, fists are just as illegal as the headlock.
Right.
It's just got lax, lazy. And if you told the boys, well, you got to quit throwing fists.
Didn't the eye rake used to be illegal too? Was that illegal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Of course. Thumb to the throat.
Yeah.
You know, I've refereed matches where a karate thrust to the throat were a disqualification, and the key is the guy selling it, you know, like he's dying. So it just continues to change and evolve, and that's why when you have less rules, you have less rules to break for the heels to utilize, and I think that's a negative.
Jim, I'm hoping one day you and I, as we work together on bonus shows, we get to watch some old Mid-South together. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Anytime.
All right, two more quick questions and we'll wrap this one up. This one's along the same lines as Sting. Could Sting, JBL Cena fan 2 says, could Sting have ever really been a serious heel? Do you think the fans would have actually gotten into that?
I think anybody could be a serious heel if they committed themselves to doing so. If he had wanted to be, and the table was set correctly, he absolutely could have been a good heel. But he's better as a babyface. He's just had all those positive traits: fresh, great body, handsome guy, fighter, athletic as hell. He had all the great traits that you're looking for. So, yeah, he could have been a heel, but he would have been a much better over babyface, tenured. And the people said, well, how can you say that? He was there for X number of years. He never got the rocket ship. If he did, it was one of those Richard Branson trips. It was up and down.
That's right.
So he never got all that. So I believe he could have been anything he wanted to be. He's that talented.
He is.
Look at how we're using him in some unique ways in AEW, and it's working. The little bit he had a week or
with
so
Orange
ago.
Cassidy.
Yeah, I had no idea that was coming, and It was comical.
So
it was
good.
It was a let me up spot, as Vince would say. Yeah, it was really good.
When I saw him and he did the little fake baby type chest pound, I'm like, Sting he gets it. He gets it, and still entertaining all these years in the business.
Yeah,
so.
he is. And he's still having fun.
Yeah.
So I love being around him. He's just a positive guy. And, you know, I've been around him since the Blade Runner days. But he and Hellwig were tag team partners for Cowboy.
And he came from the same guy that helped uncover John Cena, right?
Yes, he did. Rick Bassman.
Rick Bassman. All right, last question, and we'll let you go, JR. It's from John Mark, and he said, do you think Bobby Heenan kind of took the wind out of the moment, asking, whose side is he on? Nash actually brings this up on his recent Broken Skull sessions with Steve Austin.
Well, he might have asked a question that did not need to be asked at that point in time. Did it kill the angle or adversely affect it or ruin it? No. But it might not have been the question that I would have asked at that point, because to me it's pretty obvious who Hogan's allegiance was to. Hall and Nash. They're the new group.
Yeah.
He subsequently said that in his promo post-match. So, but he might have. You know, we've all been guilty of that, asking the wrong questions. We might be asking the right questions just at the wrong time. But I think it was quite obvious, you know, if your angle is to turn Hogan heel, align with Hall and Nash, don't put any question marks on that piece of business.
Yeah.
Let my family save your family some cash. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket, but we will save you money. It's not a matter if, it's a matter of how much. SaveWithConrad.com.
Just go, you know, let it flow, let it evolve. And the fans then will start making their own decision. But he might have jumped the gun a bit. But that's due to how you're produced, what kind of, did you talk about this in a production meeting? Did you go over it? You know, the one thing I've always done with bookers that I've worked for is that I would say to them, how do you want to go off the air? What mode is frantic mode, somber mode, whatever? How do you want to go off the air? What is the story you want told and the message you want delivered as we leave the air? And that might have been a good question for Bobby to ask in that era. You know, Bobby was kind of burning out, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Shivani's told me. So, you know, he wasn't even the Bobby the Brain Heenan that I worked with on Wrestling Challenge, or some of those other shows I worked with him on. He had lost a little bit of his fire. It seemed to me like I might be wrong about that too. I love the guy. I'd work with him anywhere, anytime, for any show. And I just miss a chance that we can't do that ever again. But sometimes, you know, you get burned out. Thank God I'm doing one show. I'm not gonna get burned out on doing 2 hours a week. So, and especially with the kind of stuff we've been doing. You know, Tony Khan has been very influenced by ECW. He was a student of the game of the Mid-South. He was telling me things I said on Mid-South Wrestling that I said, and he wasn't even born yet.
Unbelievable.
So I was a tape trader and all that stuff. So
you got to appreciate his mind and being a student.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a super fan.
Yeah.
He's got a super pencil and a mighty big eraser.
And it's full of lead.
That's right.
Well, listen, JR, this has been absolutely tremendous. As you go ahead and you get that barbecue sauce and you apply that final sauce to the meat of the show today and you sprinkle the seasoning here, what did you think of this episode here, this Bash at the Beach, the Hogan heel turn? Like you said, this is the first time you got to watch this. What did you think?
I liked it. I thought it was well executed, well thought out. Talents executed very well. Really good heel turn, timely, surprising. It's all good. So I had nothing about it. The only thing that's controversial, and now we know why they did it, was get rid of Luger early. They protected Luger a little bit more. And then it creates a 3-on-2 heel advantage when Hogan does get involved. They got the man up. So I can understand they had to get rid of Luger so they could uneven the sides. And so when Hogan comes out, he's the difference maker, big time.
Mm.
And he made it clear before he went off the air, he's the boss, he's the leader, he's a spokesman. And we got the name of I thought it was very organic the way they got the name of the group in, NWO, and the outsiders talk and all that stuff. So they're selling merch and doing all kinds of good things there in the closing moments of that piece. But I liked it. I thought it was really good. And I like going back and looking at these angles and these big moments and analyzing, pulling apart taking apart the process, where the referee was here and this and that, little nuances that the fans on the first pass of this thing may not have noticed. So I really enjoy that. It gets my creative juices going. And when you see something that's good, it's just enlightening as hell to me. So I thought we had a good day today. I enjoyed the show and I enjoyed working with you, Paul, as always. But we should do more of these anytime you want to do them. I'm always up for these. I enjoy how we do it, how you present it. It's fun. I would not have wanted to go in there and do play-by-play.
No, let's turn it on, watch it together, and talk about wrestling and talk about it as we do.
That's the bottom line. That's a good deal. So
yeah, enjoyable. Listen, I really have, and this too helps us build a relationship together, and we'll have more and more fun as we continue to work together and do these. JR, I appreciate it. We came into this hoping for 30 to 45 minutes of a watch along. We're an hour and a half in, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. We hope all of you listening to this have enjoyed it, getting inside the mind of Jim Ross, just not the voice of wrestling, but also the recruiter of so much talent over the years, an influencer of the business that we've all grown up loving and enjoying, and still getting it done today on All Elite Wrestling. JR, I appreciate all your time today. Thank you so much.
You bet, Paul. Folks, don't forget JR'sBBQ.com. It's the grilling season. We have our seasoning back in stock. So, we've been talking about that seemingly forever. And we got a new size coming out. We got two sizes. One is the same size as the older version and a bigger one, family size, so to speak. So that's back in stock, JR'sBBQ.com. And the hot sauce, Red Ass JR's hot sauce, is going to be out, we hope, within about a month. So I've already approved the taste, and it'll light your ass up, but it's really tasty.
If Jim Barnett was to try to sell some sauce,
my God,
how would he sell your sauce?
I just want to feel Conrad's cheeks. They're so luscious. He's such a nice little chubby man.
I love your sauce, JR.
Yeah. Oh, he would have. If it was free, he would have liked it.
If it was free, he would have liked it. Oh, the many sides. I love your Jim Barnett.
Jim James and Jimsy. Yeah, I always wonder, him meeting Conrad would have been one of the treats of my life. My God, your cheeks. They're so kissable.
Oh, man. They're like little snacks. But clowns.
They're hairy. I don't like the hairy.
Good stuff. Go to jrsbbq.com. Find all your grilling needs, your sauces, your seasonings, your main event mustard. You can't go wrong with that stuff, man. I dip cheese in it. I dip beef sticks in it. That stuff works for everything. Love the mustard.
It's a very ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It works on a lot of stuff. It's good. It's really good on seafood too. If you're going to grill something or when I'm in Oklahoma, where I have my outdoor kitchen, I will I'll grill salmon. I'll season it with our seasoning. That's it. Nothing else. And then about a minute, maybe 2 minutes before it's done, I'll drizzle some of our main event mustard on it. And it's amazing. One of our fans told me that. I tried it. It works like a champion.
Wow.
It's like my granddaughters were disappointed when we were out of the seasoning so long, because that's how they season their popcorn. It works on a lot of things. It's just crazy.
Goodness.
how creative you can be. So I always enjoy hearing from fans on Twitter.
Yes, post it on
JR.
social media, and we want to hear how the different things that you're using the seasonings on, because it'll help all of us use it differently.
I think so. So it's been fun, and with every bottle that's sold, I see my late wife smiling. That, hey,
that's fantastic.
That was one of our dreams. So it's doing well. You know, we always do more business. Our customer service we pride upon, you know, getting you your stuff, and we don't bullshit you if there's something negative happens. And you know, we can't control the United States Post Office.
Yeah, nobody can these days.
No, man. So, but anyway, it's all good. We're blessed. We're in the business. We're blessed. We're here on the Ad Free Network. It's all good. So, had fun today, Paul. Appreciate your time and your effort as always.
Thank you, JR. Thank you. Appreciate it. I love all of you on Ad Free shows. Appreciate all your support. And we'll be back next time on Grilling JR.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.